Well, while Tea Party fanatics take to the streets, independent candidates are making major strides on the campaign trail. Take Jake Towne, for example, who's gained 8% in the Pennsylvania congressional polls this week. He's a former chemical engineer turned possible politician, and he joins me right now to talk about his campaign and also some of the most important political issues of our time. Hi there, Jake. Now, you say that the two-party political system is basically in shambles. What do you mean by that, and what do you plan on doing to change that?
Sure. Well, the Republican and Democratic parties are really what I call a two-headed one-party system. You have a party of Republicans on the right that want to tax and spend, and you have the Democrats on the left that want to borrow and spend. There really isn't very little difference, and Americans are really realizing it. From 2000 to 2008, you had a Republican Congress in place, and they really just kept spending like they were supposed to be the small government party, and they kept spending and spending. And in 2006, when the Democrat Congress was elected with the mandate to end the war in Iraq, they kept right on going. And today, the Democrats stand for war just as much as the Republicans do.
Now talk about
what I plan to do on changing that is to run and to become the first elected independent congressional representative in the United States Congress.
Jake, I want you to talk about your open office idea in which you promised to deliver accountability and transparency. Barack Obama made those same promises, of course, throughout his campaign. But how is your plan different, and how do you plan on actually executing it?
Well, it's different because it actually has some substance to it. Transparency and accountability to modern-day politicians in Washington, D.C. is just a bunch of buzzwords. So the idea that I have is basically to create a forum on House.gov that the residents of my district will be able to go to. There will be a web page for each bill. At the top, it'll describe what the bill it is. They can read it, and if they wish, they can create a login, comment for or against, leave their opinion in the space below, and at the top of the web page there would be a phone tally. So that would be transparent. And then accountability. From my background as an engineer, every month I would write a monthly report, and this would be no different. So every month I'd write a report and would tell all the residents of my district each and every House floor vote, how I voted, and also why I voted, as well as each bill that I co-sponsored and why I did so, and as well as every bill that I introduce.
Now, you touched upon this briefly earlier, but when it comes to foreign policy, and specifically the war on terror, there doesn't seem to be too much difference between the Democrats and the Republicans. The question is usually not whether or not to send more troops, but instead, how many more troops. What is your stance on this?
Sure. My stance on the Iraq War and the Afghanistan wars are actually pretty much the same. When I am elected, I will not award a single dollar to fund the Iraq or Afghanistan wars, and I am for the immediate and orderly withdrawal of all troops from both countries. I believe that the wars that we're fighting over there are unconstitutional, they're unjust. In Iraq, it was all founded on a lie. Saddam Hussein had nothing to do with 9/11 and Al-Qaeda. In Afghanistan, we're running around, we're involved with the tribe of Hamid Karzai against all the other tribes, and it's just a real mess. And we need to get our troops home and out of harm's way, and I don't want to see our troops shot at, maimed, and wounded, and coming back to our country to broken families,
now, Jake,
as well as all the civilians that have died in Afghanistan and Iraq.
Jake, very briefly, you mentioned this earlier. You're actually a former chemical engineer, spent the past 4 years working in Shanghai, China. First of all, why did you decide to come back to the States, and what do you think about this fresh back and forth between China and the United States when it comes to both political and economic issues? Very briefly.
Sure. My background, again, with China, when I lived over there, it changes your perspective on everything. And what I tell people is it's really like your health. When you're sick, you really, really miss your health. But when you're healthy, it's just like everything's okay. And that was what happened to me, except it was liberty. Like, I saw how folks are living over in China, and I see how much and how what the great advantages of American society is. And those are the things that we really need to fight for and preserve over here, our individual liberties.
Independent congressional candidate Jake Towne, I do want to thank you for your thoughts today.